jumping on, I'll just do a quick acknowledgement of country before we get started. We're on beautiful Bangarang country, and we're very grateful to the Bangarang people for their past and present custodianship of the beautiful land that we're now farming on, which is, yeah, such a privilege. And whose country did you say you were on, Pen?
On Noongar Budja, which is Noongar land. So yeah, very lucky.
Very beautiful. Go for it.
Yeah, and you guys are farming at the foot of the Stirling Ranges.
The foot of the Stirling Ranges, but or as we now say, nestled at the bottom of Koi Kayunaruf.
Koi Kayunaruf.
Koi Kayunaruf. We're all going to be practicing.
Yeah, and we met you guys, you and Dale and the family, a bit over a year ago. We were travelling through WA, and we called in at Kendenup, and we just said, "Can we please come and say hi?" And we dropped in, and you guys were super lovely and cooked us a big bowl of curry. And Mabel went and played with the kids, and Marlon climbed all over your kitchen table, and you rustled up some beers. And it was a lovely evening, and we could have chatted hours, and we're back here chatting again, which is great.
But we only have 30 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
So
Dale's like, "Don't waffle." I'm like, "Oh God."
You can waffle, drain it.
Very passionate.
And that's why we love you. So our first question, I guess, that we wanted for you to cover for us is that, like, you guys you're broadacre farmers, and you had been farming quite conventionally for many years, but more recently you've made some pretty significant changes to your farm. I think you're on 800, was it 800 hectares?
Yeah, we're on 800 hectares, yeah. So we're originally from Dalwallinu. Dale was born and bred in Dalwallinu, and then we decided to move down south to sort of chase a bit more rainfall. And yeah, and then we sort of, by the time that we'd actually properly moved down, so I was doing lots of reading on different types of farming, influenced by Joel Salatin, and giving him lots of books that were sort of very small scale and definitely not broadacre. And it really wasn't until 2018 that Dale went to the Graham State Nutrition Farming course that was really influential. It sort of gave us some really solid influences of how we could apply it on a broadacre setting. And we also went to a community food event that had Charles Massey. He just released his Call of the Reed Warbler book, because we'd never heard of the term regen ag at that point. It sort of, I think it came around about that time. And Di Haggerty was also speaking, which ironically, you know, she's from the northeastern wheat belt, which is very close. Well, that's where we were in Dalwallinu, and they're doing all these amazing things in that space. And I was a bit of a girl fan to Di and said, "Oh, you're amazing. We could do this." So yeah, and yeah, so that was very influential. And then we sort of, so when Dale had gone and heard how terrible we were farming, or, you know, not necessarily terrible, but just how there's alternatives out there, he was pretty inspired to change what we did. So as you guys know, in a broadacre setting, the biggest thing is weed pressure. And we use herbicide to get rid of the plants that we don't want in that sort of setting. And what we did was reduce our herbicide rate. So we went to a third of the rate that we normally use, and we added in citric acid, which acidifies the water, which you normally just use more of the herbicide. And we added fulvic acid, which helps to break down the chemical compounds once you've kind of done, once it's done its job and it's got rid of the plants that you don't want, it's helping to break down the chemical compounds of the herbicide. So that's pretty much, we then removed insecticides and fungicides because...
Yeah. So glyphosate, your like first big step, that glyphosate reduction and like improving the efficiency of that was like the first step for you.
That's the first step. And then it was sort of like, you know, in a broadacre setting, you're ahead, you know, you feel like I'm going to be prepared and I'm going to use fungicides just to make sure that I don't get them, and I'm going to use insecticides to make sure they're not there. And we just kind of, you know, crossed our fingers a little bit and went with Graham's big sort of thing of support the healthy plant. And exactly, it's almost like large scale gardening is how I feel that we've approached our broadacre farm. I go around sniffing our soil constantly, kind of like, you know, trying to get my serotonin levels up, because it's so exciting to see. It smells like beautiful soil, and that's what we're trying to do. So getting rid of the insecticide and the fungicide has been, you know, it hasn't had a dramatic impact. We do get hit by red leg mites, and we do get snails, and we do get slugs down here. But once the actual plant is established and it's photosynthesizing and the sugars are there, they do seem to bugger off. So you have done what you said you're going to do as far as creating a healthy plant. So that's our chemical usage from there on in. We don't use any more chemicals, and we are working towards being completely chemical free, but we just haven't decided which way to go. And at the end of the day, you still got to balance your books. You still got to get yield off the crop, and you still got to make sure that everything's in check. So that's one of the big things, is especially in a broadacre setting for us, is that we do have a relative, a reasonable debt. We have a healthy relationship with debt, and so it's just making sure that we're making it work. So the way that we actually grow our crops now is that we dress our seeds with vermicast. So in 2019, when we only had like a box of worms when we first started that Dale had bought at Graham State's course from somebody, but we bought some vermicast, like some worm castings, and he created a slurry, and then he dressed the seed like literally with a watering can, which is no mean task, and then he added in humic acid and fish hydrolysate, and they're all fungi. They're all there to feed the soil fungi, and we've got quite bacterial dominated soils here and very heavy clay soils, so we're just trying to sort of balance the biology. That's exactly what we're trying to do. So and so they're basically, we did trial plots we still used artificial fertilizers in 2019. So over the last 3 years, we've gradually reduced it down, where we don't use any at all now. And there was we do trial plots with no fertilizer on. So the yields would be down, but the mycorrhizal fungi would be through the roof. So you think, okay, well, how can we make all this work then? So using mineral fertilizers, and this year 2021 we started using guano, which is sort of like a bird or bat poo that comes from Indonesia. That's where we get it from. We get it from Neil from Planted Passion, and he's over in Manjimup, for anyone in Western Australia. He's a great guy, and that's really good because it's a slow releasing fertilizer that hopefully what we put on last year we'll be able to utilize this year, and it's not going to run off in the same way that sort of artificial fertilizer can. So that's one of our main missions, is to not have any runoff or anything like that. And then we had a really wet year in the Great Southern last year, so it was a very it was hard going as far as growing crops. And Kendenup, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have grown crops down in Kendenup. It would mainly be stock. But people have, as the climate's dried, people have started doing it. But we had a very, very wet, sort of double the rainfall. So two things that we did that were really positive, because there's always positives when you have some rubbish years and you have low yielding years, is that we decided to put in 2 lots of multi-species crops. So we put in 3 cereals and 3 legumes, and they went 3 times the amount of our monoculture crops. So that was fantastic. And all we did was a pre-emergent spray, and we seeded it, and we never touched it again. And there's sort of a mindset in broadacre farming that you do crop rotation, you have legumes, and then the following year that nitrogen will be available for, I love the way you nod in your head, you cereal growers, you know what I'm talking about. So that it's available the following year, whereas obviously it was available that year because it just looked fantastic. It was a fantastic crop. We didn't know whether we could harvest it. We harvested it fine, just went very slow and low. And it looked beautiful. It's just like this beautiful bird seed, and it's become our stock feed. It's become our chook feed. So really good idea to do that one, and we'll continue to do multi-species crops, and we're very excited by their potential. And there's lots of research out there about them. And the other one that we did was influenced by Gabe Brown, which was because the people wanted rye. Bakers and brewers want the rye. We've got lots available, bakers and brewers, if you want to buy some, by the way. And we did that with daikon radish and vetch. And that was, so Gabe Brown has got very heavy clay soils, but it's in a completely different context. They have snow and stuff like that. But the heavy clay was sort of like, okay, the daikon radish breaks up the heavy clay soils, the vetch fixes the nitrogen, and the cereal rye is your cash crop. But we sort of getting a bit panicky about the vetch growing up into a vine on the cereal rye, sort of knocking it down a bit, and we thought, oh, that's not ideal. And then we read an article that somebody had grown favour beans and vetch, and that they'd knocked the favour beans down. So we panicked and asked our neighbour if we could use all of his sheep for 3 days. And it was a bit late in the season, but we grazed it really hard for 3 days, and that worked. It was fine. It sort of, if we'd done it better, we might have had a better yield, but it was perfectly reasonable considering the circumstances. So we sort of feel like, okay, well, we sort of know what we're doing that as well. So definitely multi-species are the way forward. And so yeah, we're pretty. Oh God, I have to turn my light back on. Sorry. But yeah, and what else are we doing that I needed to tell you that I wanted to?
With
Sorry.
With the steps that you have taken, what kind of costs has that meant for your business? Like, have the yields been quite detrimental because you've cut out? Like, has there been a cost that you've had to absorb in the
yeah, I suppose the thing is that, well, there's 2 points to that. One is that last year we definitely took a hit by not using any artificial fertilizer. We did a little bit of urea last year, and we've got plans that we don't use any artificial nitrogen. Our neighbours' crops looked all right in the same sort of setting, so we definitely took a yield hit. But in 2022, artificial fertilizer prices went through the roof, 3 times the price, like, say $600 to $1,800 a ton. Well, if you don't use them, you're feeling pretty ahead of the game, aren't you? You're feeling like, right, okay, well, we might have taken a hit last year, but we're going to kind of go for it this year. And it does feel a lot better this year. The soils are looking good. The weather's pretty great. It's nowhere near as wet as it was last year. And we don't know, we're just feeling good. But I think everything about regenerative agriculture or biological farming is long term, whereas conventional farming is hit 1 year, one hit, high yield, and there's always that thing of talking about high yields, whereas no one's really talking about cost of production. And that's what regenerative agriculture farmers are talking about, is the cost of production. So our cost of production has obviously decreased a fair bit, but we would like it to be a lot less. We still love it. We're still faffing about with stuff and just seeing what works. I mean, we're going to do potassium silica this year, which is really good for strengthening the stem walls, and that's all about sort of frost prevention, and again, like the disease, and just creating a healthy plant. If you've got a strong stem of your plant, then you're laughing in a lot of ways. Vermicast, we've noticed, has done a huge thing. I mean, all of this is anecdotal, but it's sort of, since we've used Vermicast on our seed, and that's a Nicole Masters thing. She talks about how there's a decrease in frost happening when you use Vermicast at the seed source. So that's an excellent book as well, just really accessible and really easy to read about For the Love of Soil, which I'm sure you've read. And we're going to play around with kelp powder as well, which is sort of like a plant stimulant. So these are the tips that Dale's written. I'm just writing this right, the thing. Don't forget to mention them, he tells me. That's pretty much how we'll go forward. One of the other things that we did last year, apart from the multi-species, was a plant sap analysis test. And we'd met Mark Tutman from Productive Ecology. He's based over in Margaret River. And this is all about sort of like doing a blood test for your body, and it tells you what minerals you're deficient in. This is about doing a plant sap analysis test and asking the plant exactly what it's deficient in, rather than soil. When you do soil tests, they're not necessarily very accurate. So we only did one because it was too wet, and it was great. So this is inspired by John Kemp and his stuff. I don't know if you know of his work. And so we did one plant supplement for our barley and our wheat. The results came back a week later. Mark basically broke it down for us and told us what foliar sprays we needed to use, what minerals we were deficient in, and we then did a foliar spray with some liquid gypsum, which is a really good source of calcium, and it was fantastic. We really went from thinking that we wouldn't have much monoculture crops at all to okay crops. So we managed to get something off the paddock, which was really good. But we also, again, anecdotally saw capeweed shrink in the paddock, which was just like really impressive. Yeah. So it's so you think, well, that is really impressive. You think to yourself. So we'll definitely do more plant sap analysis tests, and we'll do them a couple of times this year, and just try and get the foliar sprays right. So, and that all seems to kind of
one afterwards to see a jump in.
No, we did it too late in the season last year, but it would be. We will definitely do. We've got to do one soon, and then we'll definitely do a few over this season. So we're totally onto them now. We're just like, oh, they're just the way forward. Just to give it exactly what it wants, rather than, it's a bit like taking a multivitamin tablet. instead of actually being specific about what sort of minerals you actually need. So that feels really like, oh, brilliant. How's that going to, how's that going to go? And then it's sort of, yeah, I could waffle some more.
That's what we're here for.
We're here for the waffle. We're here for the festival. And so, yeah, like it's going forward. We just want to really reduce our inputs. We really, we get really excited by beneficial anaerobic microbes. Do you get that excited about them? Where you kind of brew up your own brews like that,
Haven't got there yet.
Too deep in
Haven't
the brew.
got there yet.
Tell us all.
Well, just start with a little bit and then brew it. It's like sauerkraut. Go for it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. So what
are you brewing?
Yeah, what are you brewing? What's your, who are you? Where's the recipe coming from? Who are you?
Where's the recipe? It's Graham Sates. Yeah, it's Graham Sates Nutrition Farming Podcast.
Yeah.
Should be everybody's listen. His
It's a good
jokes are terrible, Graham. I'm here to tell you your jokes are terrible. But the rest of the stuff is fantastic. It's so inspirational. And yeah, if anyone gets a chance to go to his course, they're just brilliant. He just blows your mind I've been to a few of his day courses. I haven't managed to do the 5-day course, but yeah, he's really impressive. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing as far as look up Graham State stuff for recipes and all the rest of it.
Oh. And so so you're talking about the biological fertilizers. Is there anything else that you see as part of your vision for the farm in terms of the farming practices?
Yeah, what I would love, if we could just be in a position where we had a massive compost system and that we used waste products from our local area. So, we're getting guano from Indonesia, we're getting all these different things. Everyone says that we're not, we have infertile soils in West Australia. Is it possible for us to be broadacre farmers and compost and just use compost? I mean, I think it is. I think it probably is, but it's sort of, we'll just have to keep on trialing it. But we're very lucky here because we do quite intensive stuff in the fact that we'll pick up coffee grounds from cafes and we'll go and get spent barley from breweries, and we've got, there's pig farmers and there's chicken farmers, and we'll go and get all their poo and we'll sort of compost it and put it for our worm system. So, and if we had an electric van, that's like, wow, wouldn't that be amazing? But it's sort of, yeah, I think just trying to, if we could have it that as soil is biologically active, as we read about, as people that give us these anecdotal stories, if this is possible, and that's what we're looking at. I mean, our children are sort of 9, 7 and 5, in 10 years time they'll be 19, 17, 15, and wouldn't that be lovely to say, look, this is what we've done, what do you reckon? And you're pretty impressed with this? Do you want to be part of this? That would be pretty good.
Yeah.
We're actually working we're not sure how to go at the moment, but we're going to do carbon projects to have perimeter planting, multi-species bush trees and plants all around our farm on our contours, and sort of create nature contours of about 154 hectares, which would kind of like connect everything in and, just create real beauty on the farm as well. I'd love that. We've got a very long, skinny farm, and it would just lovely to just sort of protect ourselves. Everyone, whatever anyone else is doing is of no regard to us, but we'd even be supporting them by creating beautiful biodiversity on our farm, which would be really good. So that's going to be happening in the next couple of years as well. So all of that stuff is really exciting. Yes.
And so you've sort of told us how you go about producing it, but then you're doing some pretty cool things with the way you're selling it. You're not just tipping it all into conventional markets. You're trying to add value at lots of different things. And so can you just tell us a bit more about how your products once they're leaving the farm?
Yeah, sure. So 2019 we had 120 ton of triticale that we couldn't sell. So there's nothing like having a lot of, because we couldn't put it in the conventional market, so we were a bit like, ooh. And I kind of like door knocked a bit and was trying to sell it to large scale chicken farms and bits and pieces. And then we decided to just sell it as a chuck grain for 25 kilos. We've since made them into 20 kilos, so we save our bags. And so that was good. We just started just selling it and advertising it, and that was the way forward. And then we got it tested. That was another thing as well, is that we got it tested to make sure that what we were saying, again, Nicole Massa says, if you claim and spray free, go and get it tested. So we did a complete profile on it and got like the nutrient, what it was, what was in it. It's very high protein. And it's obviously got beautiful, sweet, nutty taste. You guys do triticale. And so we ended up, and then we gave it to Sam, which is Breadco, the baker at Breadco, the owner of Breadco. And they're our local sourdough bakery down in Albany. And so they've had a huge impact on sort of taking our grains and turn them into beautiful baked products. And I know you guys were saying how John at Redbeard had sort of done exactly the same thing. You need to have a baker that sort of takes your stuff and turns it into good stuff that people want to buy is just so inspirational. So that's what Breadco have done for us, which has been wonderful. And they've also got an Osterola mill, which they freshly mill our grains, and a large part of the grains go into their baked goods, and then they make their own. So they've got a flour range, but they were also allowed us to. They mill our grains into our flour, so we've got Goodies Farm flour, and which is really exciting. And the lovely Tim Waters is our graphic designer, and we spent 6 months coming up with the logo. It's kind of got a bit of an active worm, which looks like the Rangers, and yeah, we're absolutely thrilled with it. And so it's just gone from there, really. I love this stuff. I love getting constant feedback from community. It's just the absolute polar opposite of dropping it off at the bin. It's so much easier dropping it off at the bin, and you really appreciate how simple and amazing the CBH market is, that you can just drive in, drop 25 ton off and bugger off again. And yeah, definitely Dale always makes me laugh when he's bending over another bag of 20 kilos. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, you guys. And sort of like I'm one power ball away from not doing this anymore. But it's been really good. It's been really I love it. We get so many lovely people are really into it because they send us photographs of their chucks eating the stuff and all the rest of it. So we sell pea straw. We started doing pea straw, and we sell, which is lovely. So that means that half the gardens in Denmark have been made with our beautiful pea straw. And we do chuck grain, and with the multi-species, people are actually turning it into food as well. So they're using it as an alternative. That's actually something. There's a wonderful woman called Lorna who's part of the Albany permaculture. And she's just prolific. She's always using it as an alternative to rice, or, use local grains in your salads, in your whatever. So, and she makes beautiful sourdough. And so we've got all these people that are sort of like cheering us on and doing product development for us for fun, like they're kind of playing around with all of our grains. Yeah. And people just say they love the taste. It says that I bumped into a mum at the school, and she said, "Oh, are you Goodies? Are you?" And I said, "Yeah, that's me." And she goes, "Oh, that's the best flour I've ever tasted." And that's keeps you going, doesn't it? Stuff like that. You're like, good, great. So we are super excited about the power of multi-species crops, and to them to be turned into food products. Really exciting. I think, well, that would be great. We're obviously done a few bits and pieces, but who knows what else we could do. I'm always coming up with something. There's some amazing books around that are very inspirational, but we've got loads of oats. I said to Dale, can you grow some oats, and we'll make some oat milk, and it's fairly ambitious. He's like, well, I've got 25 ton here, Ben, and when are you going to start making that oat milk? I just had images of it on the stall, but haven't quite got around to that one yet. But one of the big things that happened this year is that Dirty Clean Food, which is Wide Open Agriculture's online farmers market, picked us up. So they sell our flour as well. So that means people in Perth can buy our Goodies Farm flour. So that's really lovely as well.
Like, there's a lot of wheat grown in Western Australia, but how would you, summarize where the local grain economy is at the moment in WA? Like, would you say that is there more momentum around local grains, like bakers and chefs and brewers showing more interest, or are we like talking really early days still?
I think we're talking quite early days. I mean, obviously you've got Eden Valley over here. They've been going for a really long time, and they're obviously biodynamic and do amazing things. So there's definitely a market for it. There's I mean, we get a lot of bulk shops that are asking us for grain so that people can come in and buy it. I always try and encourage people to buy their own mill and freshly mill it, because there's just nothing like it. I mean, once you've tasted it, it's just amazing. And obviously it is actually relatively priced. You buy a mill and then you're buying a reasonable price grain product that you can turn into a beautiful flour yourself. And then, it's there. All the nutrients are kept for you. But no, I don't know. I mean, people like Mark Taylor, hi Mark, I know you're watching. He's an absolute legend as far as sort of spreading the word and supporting what the Haggertys are doing. And he's just so warm and welcoming with all of that. It's just gorgeous. And there's lots of micro bakeries as well. I love the fact that the micro bakeries would find it quite hard to access grain. And we've got a few that they just literally buy 50 kilos off me every couple of weeks. I mean, it's very small scale what they're doing, and we just do the best that we can to accommodate people. I do get quite a lot of orders from very random places, and if I'm going that way, I will take it, but it might be 5-6 weeks before I get there. I end up doing little mini tours of West Australia. I quite like staying in dirty motels, cheesy motels that we've got. But we were having a bit of a laugh about that, but that's another story. It is. It's super fun. All of this is, it's quite time consuming. I don't necessarily think that we're a flag for everyone to be doing it, because it is pretty hands on. But I feel, I sleep well at night. I feel like we're really trying our best to do the right thing. I mean, when we went to Grains Conference, which was just amazing, so lovely to see you guys in the flesh again and catch it with loads of people. But Tanya and Steve from Burham Biodynamics, they weren't getting away from us that night. we handed them as to how they grew their crops, and so I definitely think that biodynamics is something I'm very interested in and pursuing, and again that whole thing of trialing and seeing how it goes. But they're great advocates for what they do and how they do it, and also they're meeting like-minded and similar size farmers is really important for us as well, because it's really lovely to meet people that have done it before you and are doing great things, and they're exactly that. I think they've got 4,500 acres, have they? But their setup is fantastic.
The cleanest grain shed.
Yeah. We if the mill shed is getting a bit too dirty, our motto is like, what would Tanya do? Because she's
it's just amazing, isn't it, what they do? They're just amazing. I'm in awe of their social media page when she puts images of their shed and all their equipment. You're like, wow, one day it'll be us. It's very good.
So
Tanya, an inspiration.
See you guys doing more milling in the future if that opportunity opened up? Or
definitely. I mean, Breaker have really been amazing in helping us sort of get started and test the market, and it's a really good setup that we've got. We drop off grain to them, they drop flour to us. It's just that beautiful full circle. We take away their bran, we use their coffee grounds in our composting system, so that's going really well. And we'll just have to see how, as things progress, whether we get our own mill later on down the track or whatever the case may be. We're building a shed down here, and we've called it Local Goodies. I'm so proud of that name. And that's going to be a flour packing room, and it's going to have a commercial kitchen and a cool room. And that's sort of about the product development and bringing people together. I mean, I just love swapsies and barter. I mean, I know that's not how we're going to pay the farm off, but it's definitely it's so community enriching. It's just bringing people together, sourdough and sauerkraut courses, or I don't know, there's just so many opportunities when we think about local food. I just love local food. When we came to Dalesford and we stayed with the gorgeous Amy from Ethical Swine and Fernando, and every single piece of food, every item of food that we were eating, we personally knew, and we'd met at Grains and Twofold Bakehouse, and it was your flour, and you know, we'd swapped the veggies and the cheese had been you know, Amy'd milked the goat, and I just thought, oh, this is the life. So a bit more of that, really, a bit more fit, very strong.
That you're bringing that community from your farm, feeding people and mulching trees, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's very exciting, and we definitely get that lovely feedback as well, that we're appreciated. So yeah, it's good. It's pretty good.
Well, thank you so much. That was awesome. You're amazing, and yeah, say hi to Dale for us.
Yeah, will do. Yeah. No, lovely. Thanks so much for having me on. It's normally I get all quivery voiced, but you've made me all calm. That's all right.
There's a lot in there, but I think what you guys like, you just have this enthusiasm for farming, and I think that's something that a lot of broad conventional farmers start to lack that enthusiasm to try new things sometimes. So I think what you guys are doing, moving in that direction towards more of a regenerative system, is really exciting, and you should be applauded. So well done.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, and it's lovely to meet like-minded farmers, isn't it? I mean, that's what we really love. I mean, it was truly fantastic when you turned out of the blue to come and see us in Kendenup, and it has continued to be a lovely friendship, and you know, being on the messenger and just helping us do our rye labels, and you know, it's just lovely. It's lovely to have that support over on the other side of the country, and just calling a bit more. We're trying to do a bit more over here in West Australia, and we'll follow your lead with how you do community work, because you're doing a great job.
Thanks. All right, we'll let you go. Enjoy your evening, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks everyone. See ya. Bye.